Well, hello MicroGrinders, Alton from MicroGrinder.com, back again with another video on our How to Be 10-0 series with our mentor Reg. And Reg's here with today, and he's going to be two-tabling Fast Forward Poker on the Party Poker Network, which is their version of Speed Poker. So he has two tables of 10-0 up and running, and he's gone ahead and he's pre-played a little bit, so he's populated some HUD stats so we can use his HUD stats and he can kind of go into details on those. So I'll just go ahead and hand it over to Reg.
Okay, cheers buddy. Just before we start, we'll just go through my HUD. This is a very basic HUD that I use. It's actually the HUD I use all the time because I don't believe in overcomplicating. I prefer to get pop-ups when I need something because it buys me more time to think too. If I've actually got to activate a pop-up and do a few clicks, it stops me doing things on impulse quite a lot too, so it's kind of like it's a belt and braces thing. But my HUD is VPIP, PFR, Steel, 3-bet, and then fold to 3-bet. And then the next two lines are just flop C-bet in position, flop C-bet out of position, turn C-bet in position, turn C-bet out of position. And that's literally all I'll use. But you'll frequently see me using the pop-up. Just if it's a close-ish spot, I would look at something, and maybe I would look at something like someone's won when saw flop, because that's, if it's a close spot, if that's a high number, it would make me more inclined to call if I think they're bluffing, or if it's a low number, it would make me more inclined to fold, just as a for example. Or the went to showdown, if I think I might bluff this guy, when I saw this person's went to showdown 50% of the time, I'd be less inclined to bluff him. But that's where I'd rather go looking for these things, just actually forcing me to think about them properly, rather than just having a HUD full of numbers where you look for it quickly and it allows you to act more quickly and not put as much thought into what you're doing. And so it kind of regulates my thinking a little bit too, which is why I don't have a complicated HUD.
Yeah, I think it's nice too that, you know, playing on a site like this where it allows you to collect HUD stats is you can look at more detailed spots with the HUD pop-up and look at pre-flop, post-flop stats in detail. And we kind of talked about this before the video started, is you can make more informed decisions in, like when we're playing on Bovada and I just have my basic session stats. So yeah, I'm interested in, you know, in seeing how this runs, definitely with you playing with HUDs on Speed Poker. Yeah,
the reason we're playing with HUDs this week that we didn't last week is just to hopefully show the benefit of having HUD versus not having HUD and the pros and cons of it. This week I'm hoping to be able to demonstrate that I'll have different reasons for 3-betting different players, whereas the last video we made, we kind of just 3-bet more value-orientated hands and slightly wider for value because we didn't know how they reacted to 3-bets more. We're not going to have huge sample sizes, but at least we're going to have some sort of indication. Now we look at this player, for example, he has a 73% fold to 3-bet. It's a small sample, but it's significant that he's done that 11 times. So that's someone we're looking to bluff, for example. And then we look over this guy. It's a nothing sample, but if that stays 0 over a similar sample size to the other one we showed, then that would be someone then we would consider never ever 3-bet bluffing, but 3-betting wider for value. And that's the sort of things you can do with HUD stats you can't really do without HUD stats. So I'm equally comfortable playing with or without. Well, I think it's nice to do videos with some and without some, just so people get a feel for perhaps where we can do some different things.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I can't do such things on Bovada. I just have to do basic population reads and session reads. But yeah, you know, once you get these HUD stats populated on these players, you can play much more exploitably against them.
So I think that's everything you sort of well explained. If you think it is, we can get cracking.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get some hands going.
You'll see my standard opens are going to be probably being 10-0. I think people are going to be more call happy than 3-bet happy. I'm probably going to be 4xing it in the first two seats and 3xing it in the second two seats. Then if else you see sizing wise that doesn't seem right to you or anything I do, just please ask out, because I do tend to get a little bit sort of lost in my own thoughts and my own talking too much. So if you see anything that you want to go back and look at or you want to discuss, just interrupt me.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. And then
the 8's there, for example, that was I folded that just because A, he 4x'd it, and B, he only had half a stack.
Yeah, and he looks pretty nitty anyways as well with his stats at 16-16 with an under the gun raise, or I mean a middle position ISO raise. So yeah, and I agree with your bet sizing here. It looks like everybody else is doing a 4x early position so far for the most part, and 3x scene in late position is pretty standard. I think you don't have to do a smaller bet size for stealing at these micro stakes. People are going to call regardless.
So here against this guy, I know absolutely nothing about him. I think I would rather bet here than just take a check guess line, because I think there's value to be had for Schumer still, if we size it okay. I think we can definitely get caught by worse. Here on the right, I'm just going to make a bet and rely on my backdoor draws if I get called, of which one of them I've just come in. So now I'm probably going to triple barrel here, because when he check calls his flop, I think he's mainly got some kind of like middling pair type hand or just high cards that he didn't want to give up on yet. I think his range is overall quite weak, so therefore I'm happy to triple barrel against it. And if I'm wrong, well, so be it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to get a bunch of folds there a lot of the time, just because the way he's played the flop suggests he hasn't got a strong hand, so therefore he shouldn't really be getting to showdown too often.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to float you with a bunch of overs, and he's going to call with, moderate amount of equity with any small pair. And that
now with this guy here, I'm going to 3-bet as a bluff, because number one, he folds a lot to 3-bets. But number two, positionally, he doesn't seem too positionally aware. As you can see, he's raising 20%, 8%, 12, 29. I mean, that could be a sample size thing, but it could also just be the guy doesn't really care about position much, and he cares more just about his absolute hand strength. But we can just fold into what you will find with a lot of these guys who don't seem too positionally aware is they will end up folding to more 3-bets just because their ranges are too weak. Really, we look really quite strong away 3-bet versus under the gun, and they're under the gun range because it's not that much different to their cut-off range. Can't really take as much heat as a typical under the gun range could. And that's something I'll often look for. I will look for, if I'm going to 3-bet, I'll look actually, well, what's his range under the gun? And you see some people with a nice curve, like 11, 15, 24, 35, for example. And then you'll see others, like that player was, who's kind of looks like he's opening the same range as some all streets. In that case, I think he's a good candidate to 3-bet bluff.
Yeah, and I think if you were playing on 888, that's definitely something you couldn't do.
No. Absolutely, we just wouldn't have that information.
No.
I'm now going to give up against this guy because he has folded. I know it's a small sample of game, but he has folded two out of 3 bets, 2 out of 3 C bets so far. His check goes on quite a dryish board, and the 5 does hit some of his calling range. If he did have a straight draw, he may have got there now. He could have easily check called with a hand like pocket 5s. Now I might consider betting just kind of to get him off like pocket 2s, pocket 3s, those kind of things. Always going to work a lot of the time. But I think it'll work enough if that's the kind of hand he's got. I don't think he's going to fold a 6x. I think he would fold pocket 2s, pocket 3s, and hopefully some better ace highs, which he didn't do. So there we go. But that was kind of why I didn't bet too big there, because I'm only kind of wanting to get him off the weakest parts of his range that was still beating my ace 10. If I had ace queen or ace king there, I quite possibly would have checked back, because it was really his better ace highs, which I just got in at the end, that I was trying to concentrate on making fold. Here, I may raise because this guy, this regular, he can't really have a strong hand when all he's doing is calling this min donk. So I think I've only really got this guy to get through. I don't really want to call. I'd rather just basically bluff at this point, try and get someone to fold a queen, who I think to think this lotus flower might have a decent amount of the time. I think I can get him to fold a queen, whilst this min donk could mean anything. Once he calls, I'm going to think he's got a weak ace and probably give up.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think that he donked out with a weak ace, and he's never going to fold a weak ace.
I think weak ace is a really quite a large part of his range here, like all the ace 2s through ace 7s, that sort of thing, ace 8 possibly even. And it's kind of now, do I really want to try and bluff this kind of player who I expect is going to be a bad player off an ace? I've tried many times, usually it fails. Well, obviously we never know what they fall when they fall, but I get looked up more often than I'd like, so I'm just not going to try and do it. going to rely on the fact that may have some showdown value. He could have just dumped out with the 4 and decides to call. Who knows? Yeah, I'm just going to see, but we could have 2 overs and some backdoors. Now I'm just going to fold this and I have no idea what's going on. Again, because I've hit one of my backdoor draws. Well, both my backdoor draws have hit. I'm going to see, we're going to barrel, but I'm going to barrel quite big because I plan on 3 barreling, so I don't mind him calling here, and then I win more on the river when I manage to bluff successfully. This probably isn't the best run out because I'm not sure I get 9x to fold, but having said that, the plan was to triple barrel. We've left ourselves a pot size bet, so I'm just going to do it and hope that he somehow gets to fold a 6. Oh wow, and I just timed out. So that's a shame because I think that would have worked then. I need to be careful because what happens in these games, I'm not sure if you're aware, but you only get 15 seconds, and I've been caught out with that 2 or 3 times now tonight. And
there's no timer on this?
There is a time bank, but I didn't activate it, unfortunately. I would have definitely bluffed there. So.
Yeah, I like your jam bluff all in. I think, I mean, if, against his weak range, and of course we saw it, he definitely would have been folding there.
Well, I set the hand up to do that, and unfortunately, because I was talking and not paying attention to the time bank, it actually just made me check back, which I didn't want to do. Well, at least we got the thought process in there, but I'll need to be a little bit more aware of that because it can be quite a bugger. Yeah, if this guy had a larger stack size, I would definitely isolate, but with that stack size, there's not a lot we can do. There's not much room to outplay the guy post-flop, which you're going to need to do when you isolate with 7 high. Again, this is this guy's stack size. There's not much you can do. I don't want a flat call out of position. I actually have no time bank on this table, so we'll restart this table. I don't want a flat out of position with the hand as weak as King Jack off against somebody with... I would rather 3-bet that hand, but with his stack size, I don't want a 3-bet because he's just going to jam on me too often.
Yeah, and I agree. What if you had King Queen suited like you do on table 2?
No, I still wouldn't. I'll probably just peel them because I think it's got more overall strength than King Jack offsuit has. Here I just peeled because I wanted to keep this guy in, and this guy is only 30-11, so he's going to be overlimping quite a lot. So I didn't really see that much value in 3-betting versus calling. Now it's check through. I'm just going to bet. With this, I'm getting value, and I'm slightly protecting my hand. It is a little bit vulnerable. That is not a good river. Now it's one of the classic questions of:
do you put a small blocker bet out, or
do I block it, or do I just check fold? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly where I'm thinking right now, and I think I'm more likely just going to check fold. I think.
Yeah, I think the board's in terms of the run out. I mean, there's just too much there that just completely hits his range.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I could have been beat on the turn. I think the 10 certainly doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
So, no, it's just one of the things. Just get away from me. It's frustrating. It's a little bit annoying that the guy didn't see. But that's what we said in the video we discussed. The last one we made is we're trusting passive players to see bet, and they don't always do it. So I possibly could have done there. I was relying on a 36-11, was it something like that, to make a c-bet. I should have 4x there. And that's not always a good thing to do because you don't do it.
Yeah, I think 3x is fine there because you're only playing 4 ways. Or were you playing 5 ways? I only saw.
No, I was under the gun.
And I noticed too the players were sitting out, so I think it was only 4 ways.
Right.
But yeah, under the gun, definitely, I think 4x. I even play around with even doing 50 cents sometimes at these limits with bad players, and it seems to work fine. People just don't want to fold.
There's an awful lot of short stackers in these games, which is... I don't think the like short stackers in the true sense of the word. I think they are bad players playing with a short stack, but it just makes it quite difficult to do anything but play ABC poker against them because they're just going to be, as you know yourself, on provider, the people who play short, they're just looking to get all the money on the flop.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much all the time. So I'm kind of remiss to... I don't really want to c-bet bluff too often because you're just going to get blown off your hand too much.
Right.
But then when you check and then you miss a turn, they put a small bet into you. Again, there's not that much you can do. Just because of the stack depth isn't there for us to make the most of our skill advantage. So we're kind of handcuffed into playing pretty straightforward, which is a shame.
I agree. You can't get out of line with the 3-bet bluffing.
No, and then you can't be opening your implied odds hands too, just because you don't have them because of stack sizes. Here, he's donked. He's looks pretty nitty so far. If he had a larger stack, I would definitely raise this donk bet. But as it is, it's a question of is there enough implied odds for me to call?
If it wasn't two-tone, but spade comes off.
No, if it was two-tone, if it was a rainbow flop, I would call. But with it being that, it's one of our jacks is dirty, so we'll let it go, and we'll just waste 15 seconds time back discussing it. This is why I don't think I could probably play these games as my regular game, just because it doesn't allow that much time for thought. If your time bank is 30 seconds, but it doesn't top up too quickly, so once you've used it, you're constantly running the restart table to get your time bank back, which means you're quite often giving up decently deep stacks, which I think is a big advantage in these games. I like to build a big stack. Because I feel in the games I play, I like to think I wouldn't put myself in a game when I wasn't one of the better players. So therefore, it stands to reason if I'm one of the better players, I'm going to want a deep stack as often as possible. Because I'm constantly having to bury deep stacks just to get time bank back. It's kind of not what I want to be doing. Here, I know nothing about this guy, but I'm just going to 3-bet because I don't particularly want to call. King Jack suited, I would probably call. King Jack off, I'm going to just pop it in my 3-bet bluffing range and go from there. That is not a particularly nice flop. I think I'm kind of forced to c-bet.
I think so. I think it's right enough that you can get away with it if he's...
My issue is he's Russian, and Russians, I think their 4 buttons are generally broken more than the people's. And he just looks like he could be somewhat riggish. It's very small sample size, with 30-20, it means something.
Right, and his stats actually changed in the middle of the hand. He was showing as something like a 16-10. Now he's showing as a 30-20. So yeah, definitely very small sample size. But I think this is a good c-bet because if he has something like pocket tens and he's time banking it there, for him that's probably like a crying call.
Yeah, and with him time banking, I'm kind of inclined to fire a second barrel here. But I haven't picked up any equity, that's my issue. So this timing out is going to start doing my head right in. And now all I can do is fold because of my lack of time bank. So I'm sorry if I do things quickly with that display, because I'm trying to explain before I do something. What I might have to do is just start taking my actions and then explain them retrospectively. Otherwise, I'm going to keep timing out, and it's not going to make for a good video.
Yeah, and we can pull up the hand replayer while you're playing hands.
Or we can go back and look at the end of the session. We
That's
can
true.
just around and get to that hand again. Because I don't want to. It's the third time I've timed out now, and it's not good doing that. I'd rather just I'd rather do something and then explain it later. I'd rather just pause the session while I explain it, or explain at the end if we've got 10 minutes at the end, just look at a few spots. Because again, I'm not saying I would definitely have bet there, but I would definitely have considered it just because of the time it took.
Right.
Obviously, he's semi-bluffing my gut shot here. Once he calls, I'm kind of putting him on King X most of the time, King Queen, possibly even Ace King. I'm not going to try and bluff him off that. It's a shame if he shows up with a weaker hand than that. If he shows up with like tens or queen, but I don't think he does. I think he's going to have King Queen, Ace King pretty much most of the time here. And I beat the one draw, he could have like 10-9, I beat that. Wow, aces. He wasn't folding that in a long time. He was never going to fold there. I'm going to actually start a new table again because my time bank is down like 4 seconds on that table.
Yeah, and he took a long, an odd line to entice up, a semi-bluff out of you.
But he's kind of probably just thinking, well, you know, once he gets raised in that flop, I mean, he should probably just bet the river once I check back, because he's nearly always got the best hand. And once I've checked back the turn, it's not that much to be scared of. It's unlikely I'm going to have 3 kings there, because I would 3-bet that a lot of the time pre-flop. It's unlikely to raise a jack on the flop, so the jack doesn't really hurt him on the turn. And the reason I donked there, by the way, is because the guy only c-bets 54%. So rather than just have it check through, I'd rather just bet myself. And I'm just going to bet again here, just for some very thin value. And the river's now interesting, because it's brings a backdoor spades. It's kind of like, now I want to value bet. What kind of hands can we get called by? If we can get called by ace sides that floated enough, I'm going to go quite, well, I was going to go quite big. This is starting to really infuriate me now. If we're not just have no time back on this table either. Because again, I was going to absolutely bet then. Yeah, look, my time bank's down to 0, so this another table will be coming off.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Either you bet big or you check and try.
Yeah, I was going to bet big, because I was basically targeting his ace-x floats. He could have like ace-jack there, for example. That's probably going to call the river. And I was going to, you could see I got the score, I got the bar up to $2, but I was still too busy talking about it to actually click the win button. So I need to manage my time bank better. Which I can do. Probably bet here. If you want to discuss why later, we can do. It's mainly because I'm just going to triple barrel. That was my plan when I actually made the bet, to try and just get him off better pairs like pocket sevens, pocket sixes, that kind of thing. Once I get called, I'm quite confident my fives aren't the best hand, but because the flops are low cards and dry, I mean, the guy's going to have a hard job calling down with just like a weak top pair there, in my opinion. So I'm just going to turn my 5 straight into a blowout. I'm betting the flop just to kind of hopefully just take the pot down there, and then once he just calls, I'm just going to go fire 3 streets to try and get him off all these medium string stuff.
Well, I also think too, with you being having the initiative pre-flop, he can put a lot of ace-x in your range, and so he expects you to fire a lot of just c-bets on the flop, and then when the ace hits the turn, that's a perfect double barrel spot for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, had it come another middling card, I may not have continued with that, but the ace, it just makes it a really standard double barrel spot. When I've already kind of decided I want to try and get him off, like pocket sevens, pocket sixes, those kind of things. It's a big crime there when you check and you check again and they show you pocket sixes. They're just like, wow,
yeah,
I couldn't have got him off that. People kind of, they'd overrate the value of their fives there. Once he calls, I think my fives are pretty much the junk. So therefore, why not just bluff with him if I think he's only got a 1 pair hand too.
Right, especially if you think you have no showdown value.
No, I maybe have a tiny bit, but it's almost nothing.
Yeah, it's very minimal in a spot like that.
And also sometimes you can just river a 5 and then nice things can happen and people will get the wrong sort of impression of you. This isn't a spot where I'm going to see bet again because of stack sizes. The guy that just hoping to hit or just get a free showdown to somehow hope to win. Which I don't think I will do too often, but I don't think I'll get many folds either. It's disappointing if I let him show down his pocket sixes here. That's quite disappointing, but that kind of shows just how passive these games are. I mean, I've turned my range for a week, and the guy still just hasn't bothered to bet his weak ace himself.
I've noticed that on Bovada as well. A lot of people will just float you with a very weak ace. And he really didn't have any equity there, except with the hopes of hitting an ace on the turn or the river.
This is what we've talked about before. We've just gone for the bet fold option here. I think we can get some value from King X or smaller flushes. So rather than check call there, I would rather just put a small bet out and just, I've got a pretty confident fold if I get raised. I doubt maybe fold, raising me with like the 10 of hearts, for example. against this guy, I've already noticed he's got a reasonably high 3-bet. He looks like a regular. So if he does 3-bet me, I'll be planning on 4-bet getting it in. Again, this ace keeps coming tonight, doesn't it? It keeps on coming. What's his fold to C-bet? He doesn't fold much to C-bets. So, we either go for a double or triple barrel on him, or we C-bet with the consideration of perhaps letting him float me and then just bluff catch, which I'm not a huge fan of doing. His one-win sort of flop's not particularly high, so I'm probably just going to stab at the pot and basically just hope it works. There isn't much of a plan B here, really. It's just a matter of I don't particularly want to check call, I don't want to check fold, so betting seems the only thing I can really that even remotely appeals to me. I mean, his race really doesn't rep very much here.
And
on such a dry board, his race doesn't rep an awful lot at all, but he might just be bad enough to be raising a hand like ace queen, ace jack here. He might be bad enough to be raising sets, who knows. Well, I'm just going to give him credit.
Yeah, he did have a fairly high 3-bet percentage, but that's such a dry board that...
Which kind of makes you rule out a lot of his strong ace-x hands. So, yeah, possible with the way the board was, he could have had some weaker aces that have made 2-pair, but it didn't smell right there. But having said that, it's a pretty big mistake if I just start check calling down without really much reason other than I think he might be a little bit aggressive. That's not enough of a reason. It's frustrating, but especially on such a dry board because he reps so little. In here and just C-bet to try and get him off small pairs and just his equity share that if he's got a hand like King Jack, for example, I'm quite happy to make all that, and if he's never going to bluff with it, no. When a player who is 19-2, he's passive, I don't expect him to have many, if any, bluffs in his range here, so I'm just going to fold.
Yep, definitely agree with you on that one.
Because if you get people, they're coming from like a nitty starting point and then they're putting a small check raise, and yeah, he could be spewing, but he's getting me off a really weak ace, so I don't really care if he is.
Exactly. I mean, he's either got you beat or he's got a really strong draw.
I mean, it would have been a tougher spot there. If I just say I had Jack Queen there, for example, I wouldn't really be that excited to call that guy down, but I wouldn't particularly want to fold either, so that would have been much tougher. Obviously, we've got ace high, it's trivial.
And this is an interesting flop. See how this plays out. So I'm assuming if there's action on the flop, you're looking to get it in on the flop.
Certainly am. And I think I'm going to jam here because that gives me the best chance of repping draws, I think. And also there's an absolute massive ton of winners. Any card over an 8 is could either kill my action or kill my hand on the turn. And this is like a monkey way of repping a draw. I'm probably drawing dead to this guy here, that I would imagine. Once he jams over the top. I'm not particularly confident in my 2 9s.
No, but I think you always have redraws.
And we did have a redraw, which was nice. Then we hit it for once. But obviously, I can't legislate for that. I mean, the guy's checked the nuts, fair play to him, as he should. This guy's put a pot size C-bet in. I'm happy with the way I played the hand. I mean, I've run into someone with King 10, what are you going to do? Exactly. When he pots it, he's repping quite a strong range, he pots into that many players. And bottom set on that board. I mean, I'm not excited with the situation by a long way. I'm not there thinking, great, this is a really good situation for me. But having said that, I mean, what else am I going to do there? I may as well jam and try and at least make myself look like I might have some draws in range.
Yeah, but it's like you said, that you can be repping a really strong draw, and you may be against an aggressive opponent that may want to go all in with a strong draw as well, or as weak as top 2 pair. So I think that's a perfect way to play that hand.
And just I have no idea what's going on with this guy, but I'm just going to 3-bet call it off because it's 30 blinds and And these games are really, I'm glad I'm not a 10-11 grinder on party poker, because I just think the amount of short stacks in the games, and on top of that, the amount of nits that I'm seeing, and I am a nit myself, so I'm not criticising them for it. I just don't think they're good games. It's something you and I have discussed in the past, and I often think that the lower buying games are sometimes a little bit nittier than the higher buying games, because the gamblers don't really want to play as low as 10-L. You know, the people who play 10-L quite often are Eastern European regulars who are trying to make a living there, or just some of the more like passive people with hardly any money in their account type players. And yeah, I mean, yeah, they're not good players, but there's not that much money to be won from them. And I think most of the gamblers with a bit more money, some of the richer, more wealthier Western European countries, they don't want to play 10-L. They don't get in their gambling fix from that. So I'm glad I'm not having to build a bankroll these days, because these games don't seem. Yeah, of course they're beatable. I have an edge in these games. I have a significant edge, but I wouldn't want to have to go through all that to build a bankroll.
No, it's not like it was, 5-8 years ago.
It's not a lot of fun. At almost every table I'm just seeing people, I mean, this one's not particular, but at almost every table I see somebody with like 30 blinds and what have you. It's just a pain in the backside. It just doesn't make for a good poker experience. Here I've been 3-bet by a 17-9, which doesn't excite me. But it is button versus small blind. So I'm just going to go all in, because I can't think of a 4-bet. See, that's quite a large 3-bet. I can't really think of.
What's his 3-bet percentage?
It's only 4.1.
Okay.
But it is button versus small blind, so it's probably going to be almost at its highest at that point. But yeah, because my ISO was bigger, was 5 blinds, he's 3-bet to 18 blinds. I mean, that one we're going to do 4-bet into, say, 36 or 37 blinds. They're just pretty much the same as jamming anyway. So I may as well just jam. It's like a monkey way of repping ace king. If he's 3-betting with 10s or jacks or something, it's kind of an old-fashioned way of repping ace king too, by just jamming rather than making a smaller 4-bet.
Yeah, and I think it gets back to, if he looks like he's a bit of a Regus player and he's positionally aware and he knows you're positionally aware, he knows you're opening a wider range and ISOing a wider range in the cutoff, so he can 3-bet you a lot lighter than if you were under the gun.
Yeah, if I was him, I would have, if I had that 9s, 10s, jack set, I would have 3-bet me for sure. These are situations where I would normally want to squeeze here. That was my first reaction, but then I've looked at the 2 stack sizes.
Right, you have 30 big blinds.
Yeah, it's just taking a lot of the tools out of your toolbox. It really is, because that was a good 3-bet, but it's an offsuit king against 2 possibly weaker players who've min-raised. To me, it's a good squeeze spot, but we just can't do it because of the stack sizes. And
yeah, I don't mind isolating
really
against a short stack against one person, but if you have a short stack min-raising and another short stack coming along, then you have to be careful that if you isolate, they shove over the top, you're going to get put in a marginal spot, and you're going to potentially want to call down with the hand you originally.
I'm probably going to have to call. If I 3-bet there to say 10 blinds and he jams the 30, so I'm going to call 20 more blinds, probably getting just over 2 to 1. I have to call in, so I have to kind of end up putting 30 blinds in with King 10 off, which I don't really want to do. No, I don't want to be doing.
So we are at 33 minutes.
Wow, already.
Yeah, this kind of this went quick, with you playing these speed games. Everything went through really quick. So let's just go through these last 2 hands, Ace King and Ace Jack.
I see bet here because I have 2 overs and the back door, and I'm certainly not going to fall to this min raise. I'm not going to 3-bet him. I'm just going to call and hopefully pick up some equity, which I didn't do. So now I'm probably just going to check call here. I'm going to barrel quite big, because I think I still get plenty of calls. And now on the river, it's a matter of, are there more draws in his range that I should be check calling against, or can I get value from King Jack, Queen Jack, 10 Jack more? Because you're going to check back all these jacks for sure. So it's kind of like, do I check and risk him checking back his Jack X and missing out on having a bet, or do I go for the bluff catch? I think my hand's too strong to bluff catch. But having said that, he's got a high one when store flops, so for that reason, that's going to make me want to check, because I think he's going to bet quite a lot. Oh wow, he checks back a set there.
That's very interesting.
It's kind of, I mean, I do not understand how on earth he can check back a set there, but...
No. Well, and I don't understand why he's not check raising on the turn either with such a strong hand.
A, he should raise at some point because he can rip a ton of draws. B, checking back a set there is, to me, it's beyond insane. I do not understand that whatsoever. I've kind of...
Maybe we can pull that hand up and kind of talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that.
The line he took there is pretty ludicrous in terms of, if he's trying to get value from you.
So let's pull up the hand replay it. And we got the last two.
It looks like it's the fifth one down. Ace Jack with the... Yep.
It does. There we go.
And can you pull the hand replayer up all the way up so we make sure that it's in? Yeah, we're good.
Is that okay there?
Yep, that should be in the video.
So, I mean, this is blind versus blind. I mean, I don't disagree with his flop call too much.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard.
He probably needs to raise a turn for value, protection, everything. I mean, there's tons of cards. There's tons of hands I'm not folding there to a turn raise. This would be one that I would probably be folding, but there's plenty that I'm not.
Yeah, and from his perspective, I mean, there's, it's a two-tone board with two flush draws out there, so now you have a backdoor flush draw with the original flush draw. You have a straight draw as well.
And also from his perspective, he doesn't know me that well. He's only got 70-odd hands on me, so he doesn't know I'm the sort of player who's just going to fold top pair, top kicker to a turn raise.
Right.
So he should absolutely be raising the turn for value, but he doesn't do it. He continues his slow play. I have no real issue with that. But when I check the absolute brick river, and he checks back, I mean, I just do not understand this at all.
No, I don't
it's a really
either.
poor play. And if any of our viewers are checking these hands back, thinking, I see it all the time on forums, I pick people up on it, thinking, what worse hands are going to call? It's probably what he's thinking. Which worse hands are all the draws have missed? Which worse hands are going to call? I don't know. I cannot think of any rhyme or reason why. He's clearly irregular. He should know about getting value. That is an absolute slam dunk value bet. It really is. I was check calling all day there.
Well, and if he's calling you on the turn thinking he's good and a brick comes off on the river, why is he not going for value?
No, I have no idea. I mean, of course, I could conceivably have Queen 10. I'm going to bet Queen 10 nearly all the time. But in fact, I'm going to bet Queen 10 100% of the time down the river.
Exactly. And if he thinks you have something like as weak as Jack 10 and you missed your draw and you have a weak top pair, then he could go for a thinner bet to get you to call with a weak hand. So lots of value lost there.
This is quite a good example. I mean, this is a really extreme example, but it is a good example of how weak tight these games are and how when people are betting rivers, I mean, yeah, this is extreme and most people would bet this river. But when people are betting rivers in these games, most of the time they've got it. We'll find that out by calling too much and paying off too much. And this is a good example because I see people check back hands that I think are slammed up. I say wow at least 3 or 4 times a session when I check, someone checks and I think I've won the hand and then they win it with like 2 pair or something. And people just aren't good at value betting. They really aren't. That's why people's one-way saw flops are usually in the high 30s, low 40s because they're not going to win. It's probably with red lines go down so much. It's not so much not bluffing enough, it's they're not value betting enough. And it just proves this is a good demonstration of just how really poor a lot of the players are in these games and how weak they are on the river. So it's a good demonstration of why we shouldn't be really paying off river bets because if he's not value betting a set of threes in this river, what the heck is he value betting? It would suggest, I mean, I'm assuming he would value bet 3 nines at some point, but who knows? Who knows where he hasn't bet? But it does demonstrate quite well just how weak tight a lot of our opponents are going to be in these games. So we shouldn't really be looking for too many reasons to check call rivers.
Yeah, I think at these levels, and that's, you and I talked, and I tend to put people at the top of their range when I'm facing aggression all of a sudden on the turn of the river. It's because at these levels, people are really passive, and when they wake up, they play their hand face up with a strong range, and the top end of the range, and so you may think they're bluffing, but a majority of the time they're not bluffing. They're at the top end of their value range, and so that's why I say don't pay off with top pair or one pair a majority of the time,
I guess
because
some
you're just
players
going to get looked
can,
up. Yeah.
depending on, there's a few things to take into consideration. I mean, sizing's obviously one.
Exactly.
A player's tendencies is another. But yeah, generally speaking, I think bet folding is going to be a much better line for most of our people watching this on rivers with hands. Perhaps ace jack. The only reason I went for the check is because tons of draws missed, all the flop draws missed. The only draw that got there is the gut shot. So he's called twice. So I was more inclined to think he had a draw. I thought his range was pretty much draws and jack X. I know he's going to check back jack X most of the time, but he's going to bluff his draws a lot, I thought. I certainly didn't expect him to check back 2-3s. When he checked, I just presumed I'm going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't. So there we go. Thanks to him for saving me $2. Or
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good hand to kind of summarize and conclude this video with. I think this was very interesting to see you playing with a HUD on speed poker. It makes for a different style of play when you're
I'd just like to apologise for the timing out, because that shouldn't happen. It's just because I'm not used to the site, and it's been happening to me quite a bit, to be honest with you. And if I do another video on this site, I will absolutely take more care to make sure the timing out doesn't happen. We definitely missed a couple of spots where we could have value bet or bluffed, and it's disappointing we didn't actually get to see the hand through properly due to timing out. So try not to let that happen again.
Yeah, and I think that's that's going to happen when you're new to a different site with speed poker, when they have a short timer. But overall, I think it went well. I think you showed some interesting spots, even though you timed out on some where your bluffs probably would have worked, or you missed some value bets. But for the most part, I think that you were able to go through the logic of how you played fairly well, and the 15 seconds that you had on each hand. So good video. For our viewers, let us know how you like this video. If you want to see another video of the Party Poker Fast Forward, or if you'd like the 888, or if you like our hand history review format, definitely let us know. We'll custom tailor our future videos to what you want, what you need. And then Reg, anything from you?
No, it was fun. The half an hour seems to go really quickly. It feels like I wanted to do more. Feels like I would have liked more content in it, but we are keeping the videos quite short, because people, I think if you watch an hour-long video, you tend to end up getting distracted and not maybe take it all in. I think short, sharp videos are better, but it just, for me as someone who's doing the playing, it seems to pass really quickly. It doesn't seem like half an hour. So
yeah, I agree. But I think it's better for our viewers.
If people do want longer videos, perhaps we could start doing them and splitting them and releasing 2 at a time or something like that, possibly. If people do want more content from us. Yeah,
that works for me. Yeah, viewers, let us know. Do you like 20 to 40 minutes, or do you want a full hour? Let us know what you prefer. We'll custom tailor them to what you want. And Reg, thanks again for doing this video, and our viewers, thanks for watching. All right, take care.